got me like, that's my song playing from my record from 2018 called Hello, It's Me. And it's called Hello, It's Me because there's a song on it called Hello, It's Me, and that's that song. And also, that's the name of a Todd Rundgren song, I realize. I'm not crazy about Todd Rundgren, but that's a pretty good song. And can everybody hear us good? All right, good. Well, here we are. I'm in Nashville. And I'm in Nashville, and Greg is right next to me. Happy New Year, all you people. Happy New Year, Gimlins. Happy New Year, Power Directors. Happy New Year, Hot Storks. Happy New Year, chat room. We're back. Look how much nicer Greg looks than me. I look like the ghost of Christmas fucked up, and Greg looks like fucking Tom Selleck over there. Look at the lighting he has. My lighting fucking sucks. Why do I always look like a ghost? Ugh. Anyway, how are you guys doing? You guys doing good? Guess what happened to me? I got shingles. So that's part of the reason the show hasn't been happening, and just everything else, because the holidays are, make a person to a crazy person, so you can't do anything, and all these shows are basically 90% wires and Wi-Fi and everything. So you can't, who's in the mood when you're already shopping for presents during Omicron and every other, and getting shingles from the stress? Who wants to worry about wires on top of all that, So we got it all figured out, though. We're all over here getting wired. We got wires all over the place, and we're happy as birds because we've adjusted to the new normal. All you have to do is you just need a couple weeks to adjust to the new normal, and then there's a new normal after that. But the new normal right now is just being scared out of your wits by a virus that we thought went away like 3 times already. So anyway, cheers. Welcome to 2022. And it's very funny that people keep thinking that some new year is going to be a good year, because until we redistribute wealth, every year is going to suck from here on out. So the idea that 2022 is going to be a good year, or that 2021 was supposed to be a good year, or that any year on the horizon is going to be any good at all, just remember, it's not the year, it's the crony capitalism. There's not going to be any year coming up that you're going to be happy. But you can still make the best of it if you have the right wires and Wi-Fi, and you can have enough money in your bank account to use auto pay. And eventually we're all going to just live in houses and get I guess we already are if we're lucky. All the lucky people will just stay in their houses and get their auto pay, get their, get their direct deposit coming in one end, and then they'll just cough out the automatic payments the other end, and then they'll just post stuff and then die. So, that's why all the years are going to suck, because people who like to do other stuff besides, auto pay is not really the American dream exactly. It's kind of a form of it. All right, well, that's enough. Let's talk about some fun stuff. Let's talk about shingles. Okay, so look at this. That's a shingle. That's the remains of a shingle. That was the first one. I was driving across the country in my Honda Fit, and I thought everything was normal, and we had 3 vaxes, and there was no COVID. Omicron hadn't really kicked off. It was just in the middle of being about to. And so I was happy as a bird listening to I don't know, 1980s hits. I like to drive late at night and listen to songs I haven't heard since high school. And so I'm listening to those songs, and there's this little twingy, tingly, kind of little like electrical feeling above my eye here. And I thought, I bought this wool hat, or, probably not wool, at a gas station, because it got cold crossing the country, because I came from California, and around, maybe, I think, did you guys probably heard the show a while ago, I talked about my boss ripping my bathroom off of my house, my landlord slash boss, Phil. So yeah, he tore my bathroom off. And that, I think that contributed greatly to these shingles, because shingles are caused from stress. So I don't know. I just never even heard of them. So here's what happened. So I'm going to show you the rest of them. They're almost all better. But I never heard of for those of you listening only on the podcast, what I just did was I took off my hat and bent over my bald head and showed people like some red marks on my head, because there were some big red swollen things that popped up, and I thought, oh, they must be from that hat I bought at the gas station. So I just decided that hat was the problem. So I threw away the hat. It was only $4.99, but I would say that the thing that makes me maddest out of all of this is that I don't have that hat, because it turns out there was nothing wrong with that hat. It was shingles, unrelated to. I thought it was formaldehyde. I was like, those Chinese and their formaldehyde. So everything turns racist immediately if you have no information. So I'm like, oh, the Chinese hurt my head. It turns out I hurt my own head, or my boss hurt my head by tearing my bathroom off off of my cabin. Anyway, so the shingles, I got back to Nashville and someone saw the shingles and they said, I think well, first I said, I think I was allergic to this hat that I bought at a gas station, which, that everybody's like, well, maybe. And then somebody said, oh, those look like spider bites I got. So I went to urgent care and I said, listen, I got these spider bites all over my head. And the doctor or the physician's assistant who came and saw me, it was Christmas Eve morning. She acted like she won a contest or a game show. She said, I know what those are. Like, she was like, I know what those are. And I said, what are they? And she said, they are shingles. And I kept thinking I couldn't remember the name shingles. So I kept saying I had, what's the other one? Not dropsy. I kept thinking I had lupus, which is much worse. And what's the other one? That lupus and there was one other one I kept thinking I had, not dropsy. Dropsy is a 19th century disease. Probably a disease that was like a woman who got mad about something that was legit, and they were like, you have dropsy. Put her in an institution. Oh, God. The 19th century sucked. The 20th century was pretty good, and then this century sucks. So maybe it's like switching off. Maybe the next century is going to rule. 19th century blew. Outdoor bathrooms, rampant sexism, petticoats, fucking horses kicking you all day, fucking shit all over horse shit all over the streets. Then the 20th century was all about like, we invented a car, and everybody was like, yay. And then everybody went too car crazy, and then they fucking filled up the whole environment with smoke, and now everybody's going to die. So I think maybe next century will be the century to be alive. So that's about it. I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Just kidding. We're still going to do a show. Besides that, look how pale I look, though. Seriously. My God. Yeah, you're right about that. Someone in the chat just said 1994 was pretty legit. It's true. 1994 was a good year. Grunge was like, grunge was pretty fun. Grunge was very fun, because grunge, really all grunge was when music was like the biggest thing happening. It was before the internet, and music wasn't free. And so like musicians were like the biggest story in the news. That'll never happen again. Now the biggest story is some video game, or I think some video game sold 8 million copies lately. Like albums sell like 4 copies because they're free now. And then video games still sell. Video games people will go buy a video game. So some video game that's about like being in the forest or something, like they all are. I think video games are giving people false impressions of how much room you're supposed to have. Like as a human, I think humans think they're supposed to have a forest to themselves. And if everyone got their own forest, there would be nowhere for anybody to live. And that's the model of these libertarians that are moving to Idaho. And I think maybe they've watched too many of these like games where they're like a gremlin in the forest running around. And they think that the American dream was always to have your own forest. That's too much room. You're not allowed to have that much room and live in a society. This isn't like, I mean, the population during these times, these video games are all set in like whatever the Hobbit time was. And there are only about 12 people living in the whole fucking world back then. The population's exploded. You don't get your own forest and your own adventures anymore. Too bad. But you do get wireless or somewhat wired internet. I mean, for wireless, they call it wireless, but you got to have a lot of wires. You can quote me on that. All right, now you're probably wondering why Greg has not said a damn word so far and has sat there like he's part of his background. And that's because his microphone picks up my voice and doubles my voice. So if Greg's microphone's on when I talk, then it doubles my voice and annoys everybody. And also will sound like shit on the podcast. So now Greg is going to turn on his microphone and weigh in on, I don't know, anything he wants. Shingles, how much I shouldn't have talked about shingles, or like whether he thinks that maybe I'm wrong about why libertarians might not be living in like Dungeons and Dragons or whatever fucking video game sold 8 million copies this week. I think it's not Magic the Gathering. But I don't even know what Magic the Gathering is, but it's something like that. It's like some fucking guy in a cloak running around the woods should be called Libertarian Wet Dream, but it's probably called like Fantasy. I don't even know what's a good name for a modern video game, like Cloak Boy. Cloak Boy 4 sold 8 million copies this week, and fucking the world's greatest art form, music, is free. And no wonder everybody's in a bad mood. I'm in a bad mood I'll never stop being in a bad mood that music is free and video games cost money. And that's about all. So now Greg's turn, and this is how we're going to run the show from now on.
Hey, it's Greg. All I've got to say on cue is that I'm actually drinking cold brew this week. Normally it's a Coke Zero, but in hopes that tomorrow work is canceled, it may not be. I'm taking the plunge with real cold brew. So this is the real deal. Cold brew got me like tonight. As far as 94, music was good. I was listening to John Spencer Blues Explosion today, actually. But that record came out in 98. Back to you, Chris.
Okay. So anyway, tell me what is it called? Like, is there a video game called Cloak Boy 4? This is that's what people think though. They think freedom is like I don't know, running around the woods. White people think freedom is just like having your own fucking country to sit around and fucking gaze at the landscape. And they don't understand, well, if everybody had their own landscape, there'd be that's why everybody's fucking homeless living in a goddamn camp, because you've got 14,000 acres of places where there could be homeless people living, and all you do is stare at it and think about how fucking ripped off you got, like, by life. Like, white guys are like sitting there like looking at the mountains and being like, everything went wrong. How could it? If it went so wrong, why do you have your own mountain, Cloak Boy? So can you hit the cold brew got me like button, please?
Cold brew got me like.
So good to see all of you guys. And this is we're drinking Kirkland cold brew tonight. This is from what's Kirkland? What's that brand? Does anybody know? Costco or something? Greg?
Confirmed. Costco news desk. Check.
Holy fuck, this show is gonna be a nightmare. All right, so All right, so you guys got a Costco cold brew here, and let's talk about. I'm going to talk about. Do my usual joke here that people love. We get lots of mail about this joke and how people love it. Hey, Costco cold. Wait, I forget. No, I got to say, Costco cold brew is horrible. It's fucking terrible. It's the worst cold brew in the world. Tastes like shit and does no caffeine in it. That's not true. It's actually good, but unless Costco gives us free cold brew, I'm going to say it's bad. Costco cold brew sucks. Okay, well, that's that gag. All right, I'm going to put in my, speaking of fucking insurrections, today is, speaking of insurrectionists living in 9,000 acres and staring at a lake and saying, America isn't what it used to be. I used to be able to stare at 2 lakes. I remember in America, you could stare at 4 lakes. Now I only have 1 to sit by and smoke my bripe. You guys know what a bripe is? I know you guys do. Oh yeah, Miles Gray. Miles Gray from the Daily Zeitgeist, which is the show that made my career, is a big Kirkland cold brew fan, and for some reason he thought that Kirkland cold brew was being discontinued, and he bought like a whole pallet of it. But I mean, I guess it's still going because my brother David got me a case of this stuff for Christmas. But I'm not against Miles Gray stockpiling cold brew. I think it's a good idea. Because the last thing you want to do is be caught during a civil war with no cold brew. You'll be the least energetic warrior. Because the fucking insurrection people think that the best way to fix the supply chain is a violent overthrow of the government. But I got news for you. You think the supply chain's fucked up now. Wait till you have a violent revolution. You think container ships are delayed now. You wait till you throw the government and see how many container ships we got coming in. It's so fucking stupid. I just love if the January 6th, this is the anniversary of that horrible, stupid fucking bullshit. I just would love to know what those fools would have thought, those cold brew idiots, basically. I think they're all on Monster Energy drinks, so they're not drinking cold brew. They probably think cold brew's a liberal plot. Even though they drink fucking Starbucks because they think I think Starbucks, I think those type of people think Starbucks might be like Jesus invented Starbucks. Like I think they think Starbucks is holy. I mean, if you've ever seen a line at Starbucks, it's always populated by those insurrection types. And they act like they're in line to get anointed by the Pope. There's no time that insurrection type people are happier than when they're in line for their goddamn 9-shot birthday cake macchiato or whatever the fuck they're called. So anyway, what are we doing today? I was going to say about the insurrection. Yeah. Like what do you think they would have done if they'd won and they had control of the government? Would have been really interesting to see what they did after they went through going through everybody's desks and wearing moose hats and stuff. Like what their first decree was probably going to be. I don't know what would their first speech be? Nobody's mad enough. We need to be madder. I think that was mainly their thing. Like, it feels good to be mad. That's all we wanted to say. This is what the show would be like if Greg's microphone was fucked up all the time. How do you guys like it? Okay. So we're going to do, what are we going to do today? What are we going to do today? I'm going to put my background on here. I want to put on my American Dream background. Where is it? So they have these backgrounds on your whatever this is. What is this? Skype, or is this Skype? Eric, say something.
Yes, Chris, it is Skype.
Are these choices of background courtesy of Skype? They must be, right?
Indeed, I think that's true.
Or are they coming out of my PC? They coming out of my PC?
It's courtesy of Adobe, right?
Oh yeah, that's a good cue for what I was going to talk about. I got one of here's the look. I have a background now. For those of you at home, I have a background that looks like a 1-bedroom apartment in New York, which probably would cost like $2,600 a month. But they let you fantasize that you have a living wage with these backgrounds. So I've got the living wage background on. Greg has a picture of a cat behind him, and we're on Twitch, and it's the first show we've done in weeks, and I'm happy to be back. Okay, so I downloaded Adobe Acrobat. And man, oh man, what a traumatic experience it is for someone who doesn't know anything about computers to download anything. My Lord. I mean, when I hit that button, I figured my computer might just melt into a heap on the table when it said, do you want to download this? But I got the sample version. I got the sample or the free version of Adobe Acrobat. I need it to edit a document, or I have a document where I want to be able to put edits on it, and then another person who's on the same document can see my edits, and it has like a drawing tool where you can circle things, like to say cut out this or add this. But as far as I can tell, for the free version, there's no way they don't give you an eraser. But that seems impossible to me. Like the tease of it is like you get the real version, because if you don't get the real version, you don't get an eraser. So like if I circle the wrong part of a paragraph and I want to remove the circle that I've drawn with their little fucking imaginary crayon, then you fucking want to erase it. And on this version of Adobe Acrobat that I downloaded with tremendous suffering involved in downloading this app. I mean, it was just like, I thought for sure I was downloading a virus. I was completely sure that my computer was going to start flashing a giant siren emoji, and that I would probably have to get a new computer. But I hit the button and said, download Adobe Acrobat free version. And somehow it included 2 McAfee things that also now won't stop telling me that I need to get. I already had one McAfee thing on this computer telling me that I need to get McAfee. Now I have 3 different ways for John McAfee to tell me I need fucking McAfee. So half of being on my computer is just telling McAfee no, which I'm sure anybody who knew John McAfee in real life, if you've ever seen an interview with him, was like anybody's experience with him in real life too. So John McAfee has lived on beyond the grave, making people say no to him all day. He's probably thrilled. But do you think, I just want the opinion of the chat room here, do you think it's possible that Adobe Acrobat free version does not have an eraser as a gimmick to make you get the one that costs money? Or do you think I just don't know what the fuck I'm doing? We'll do it. We'll talk about it next week or something to get the results of the poll, but I haven't given you guys any opportunity to really formally vote, so I don't know how we'll do it. All right, I'm gonna have a sip of some cold brew. Greg, you want to talk about? Let's do some stuff today. We'll do It's okay if it's on every now and then.
How can you tell right away?
I just heard it because my voice was I heard the echo. Doesn't fucking matter. I'm a fucking asshole. So Greg, we're gonna watch a clip from a guy. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but part of getting through this Omicron nonsense is has been staying home, getting tested, what was I saying? Oh, Criterion Channel. Been watching the Criterion Channel to make us feel like the world is like an intellectual place, as opposed to if you watch like cable news and what you feel like the world is you see the real world, which is just a place where a bunch of people in fucking really fancy glasses frames scare the shit out of everybody all day with fucking quote unquote news, which is just a list of every fucking tragedy they could dredge up. So anyway, Criterion Channel makes you feel like you're in academia or something when you're watching it. So I watched, it makes you feel like you're safe behind an ivy-covered wall, which is a good feeling. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a good feeling. Like I used to think people who hid inside ivy-covered walls were dumb. Now I think it's actually they were ahead of the curve. They're so lucky. Like campuses, like college campuses feel like Magic the Gathering or Cloak Boy. I mean, they're people are just going to end up at this point anyway. I support people who are just hiding out and having imaginary lives, like pretending they live in like 17th century or something, walking around some quad, smoking a clay pipe or whatever they do. But Criterion Channel, if you can't afford to go back to college, is a good way to feel like you're in a world that still makes sense. By watching some 3-hour movie that's like about philosophy, like Tarkovsky's Stalker, or The Tin Drum. I watched The Tin Drum. It's like 3 hours long. It's based on the book The Tin Drum by Gunter Grass, which I tried to read once, but I just could not do it. It was so boring. And the Tin Drum, I don't really recommend The Tin Drum as a movie, but if anyone knows about it in the chat room, it's about some kid who it's very I don't know. I think there's a lot of allegory going on that I didn't understand or else didn't come across in the movie. But another movie that's on Criterion, me and Greg are big fans of documentaries, and so is Eric, our who I call Captain Nemo, the guy who was in charge of this submarine. And Greg found this documentary about an actor named Sterling Hayden. And so Sterling Hayden was in, if any of you insufferable hipsters have seen The Long Goodbye, which for some reason hipsters have decided is the greatest movie that was ever made, which I think it's a fine movie, but I don't know why hipsters are so fucking crazy about it. But people are like, The Long Goodbye. It's like some way of saying that. It's like The Long Goodbye is the new Shins album. From if you've been around for a while. Remember when the Shins were like a big thing to say if you wanted to try and get laid in a certain, in academia, actually. If you were behind an ivory covered wall anytime between 1999 and 2005, saying the Shins was like a piece of currency. And the same way that was now these days, if you say The Long Goodbye, you'll get every fucking skinny motherfucker in the room nodding their head. So, Greg found this documentary about the guy who's in The Long Goodbye, who plays like the big, loud, rich guy at the end, who's married to, I can't remember, but the big, loud, rich guy who goes swimming in the ocean in Long Goodbye is Sterling Hayden. And he was also a big star in the 40s. So he had this long career. And Greg's going to tell you a little bit about Sterling Hayden. And I'm going to drink cold brew. Well,
unmute, Greg.
Sorry, I got distracted for my big cue. Let me get to Wikipedia here. All right, Sterling Hayden is a fascinating character. If you've seen The Killing, he's a star of that. His career started out apparently a Hollywood kingpin saw his photo as a fisherman. He was on a Time or Life magazine cover. They took a picture of a boat, and they could see Sterling Hayden on that boat. And a Hollywood dude was like, that guy should be an actor. I want him in my film. And that's how his career started, believe it or not. And so he went on to have a pretty successful career. He was in The Asphalt Jungle, with John Huston. He was in The Killing, as I said. He was in Dr. Strangelove. And he got involved with the McCarthy Committee. And after he left Hollywood to become a paratrooper and became friends with some communists, and then actually joined the Communist Party briefly. And so then that's how he got sucked into the Red Scare thing. And that kind of ruined him. And so he left. He was rewarded by by turning in some Hollywood actors that were communists and to protect his children. And they were threatened by the FBI. And then they rewarded him with like 10 straight movies that were crap in his mind. And so this documentary finds him on a barge that he bought in Holland because he's a sailor. And so he docked it in France, I assume in Paris somewhere. And so these German filmmakers caught up with him. He was very elusive, and finally they pinned him down to interview him on a boat on his barge. And he's an alcoholic by then, and he partly to deal with what he went through as an actor and the Communist Party and all that. So it's just his. Obviously, everyone knows who's encountered him that he's really charismatic on camera. And so you start watching this documentary. It's called The Pharaohs of Chaos, and you just can't stop watching it, oddly, because he's really not saying that much. But it's on film, and it's very kind of addictive to watch. So we got a clip from that, right, Chris?
Why, yes, we do. Greg, could you mute your? Oh, did you already do it?
I got it.
Oh God, this is the worst. So I just feel like such a jerk. All right. So the look how fucking pale I am. I'm still pale. I thought, God, what is anyway? I look like, if you were listening to the podcast, I look like I have scurvy. I look like I need a lime. I look like one of the people from the Terror, HMS Terror. Shortly before they were buried.
Did you say you look like you need a lime?
Yeah, like scurvy. So I look so pale. It's crazy. Maybe it's just the way I am. I don't know. I guess, I mean, I am Irish, but I don't understand. There's fucking sun in Ireland. I mean, the sun doesn't not exist in Ireland. I don't understand why they didn't put any pigment in Irish people's skin. Were they trying to make them stay inside at bars? Was God trying to make Irish people drink? I don't understand. I mean, even in a bog, the sun has to, I mean, there wouldn't even be a bog. I mean, all I think when I think about my coloring is that I'm supposed to be in a bog. And I realize a bog is probably foggy. I mean, I'm like 100% Irish. So I'm supposed to be, if there hadn't been an Irish diaspora, then I wouldn't be in America. I'd still be in a bog. But even in a bog is made of something that the sun has to, there wouldn't even be a bog if there wasn't sun. So I don't understand how they decided that Irish people needed no melanin. I mean, none? Why didn't we get any? Okay, anyway. So this is, so Sterling Hayden is a narcissist. He's one of these guys that probably, back then everybody was like, I made a nickel. I mean, I started out with a nickel and ended up being a movie star. He's one of these kind of guys, but he is an interesting guy because he's also one of those guys who thinks he was entitled to 100 million acres of land to sit and think. Definitely. But that's what makes him interesting. He was sort of part of the system because he ended up having to turn in these communists to save his ass. And then it made him feel so bad because he was actually a lefty. And he had to, after he turned in the communists, Ronald Reagan was patting him on the back, which was his worst nightmare because he didn't like Ronald Reagan. He was the reason he got investigated to begin with is because he was a lefty. And then he ended up having to turn in other lefties. And then that moral failing basically turned him into the saddest man in the world. So he is, he's kind of like Steve Bannon or something, except Steve Bannon is stupid. He's kind of the other side of it, a genius version of Steve Bannon who's on the right side. But similar, has this, he's kind of giant physically. He's a very big person. People tend to respect big people for no reason, because they're just big. So you figure this person must have some authority because they're big. That's why, if you ever meet a venture capitalist, they're usually these type of people, these sort of big people that look like a cartoon version of a Christian God in a way, because people imagine it's been portrayed, Christian people portray, or Christian art is always portrayed God as this white guy with white hair, was really big and strong. And so if you look like that, people, whether they know it or not, are programmed to give them money and give them power because they resemble God in their sort of in this cartoon way. So they're like, if a big man who looks like God comes into the room and says he wants money for his idea for an app, you're more likely to give it to him than, say, someone who doesn't look like a cartoon version of God from your childhood. So
or Elizabeth Holmes. He was 6'5" though.
Well, Elizabeth Holmes did her own sort of parlor trick. There's a lot of parlor trickery involved in crony capitalism. It's people are looking to these archetypes to save them. And yeah, like for some reason, like, you know, Elizabeth Holmes like hypnotized. Well, I don't even want to get into Elizabeth Holmes because it's really more about like her just old men like Henry Kissinger probably thinking she was attractive and just being like, I'll give you money, you know, just stupid bullshit. Just like, oh, she is very smart. Do you mean you're attracted to her? Yes. So do you have enough money you can give it to this woman just so you can hang out with her? Yes. I like having coffee with her. She's fascinating. So, do you mean you're attracted to her? Yes. So, okay, so let's watch some Sterling Hayden talking about, this is pretty funny, talking about substances. Also, back then people thought like alcohol and weed were really gonna, like somehow, I don't know, they just hadn't figured out that they were just sort of not gonna really offer you much. But back then, I think people really thought alcohol and weed had really kind of mystical properties. Now everyone knows that they're just fun. But let's listen to Sterling Hayden on the Tom Snyder Show. So there's a lot of cold brew involved in this show, just based on the outfits. It's probably 79, 80. And this is not the documentary from the Criterion Channel.
Now here's Mr. Sterling Hayden, who has not been with us for the past 3 years. And as I say, Sterling, you have gotten more reaction from our audience begging us to replay the show, and everybody is happy that you're back with us tonight.
Well, I thank you. I thank you.
Now, this assignment to Yugoslavia to cover the funeral of Tito, what was that all about?
Well, I guess primarily, I was there a couple of years in the war, and I was in the Marine Corps, and we were attached to an outfit called OSS, you know, the old OSS. Yep. They made pictures about it. I think they made a picture with Alan Ladd called OSS or some damn thing, and it was a very moving thing to us, and I you know, as we all watched in these last few months, as we watched Tito go out, because he sure took his time, didn't he?
Didn't he? Yeah.
I thought he might, you know, live forever. And I got thinking, well,
he got close to tying the Franco last the longest contest, you know.
How long was that, man?
Oh, Franco, I think, was 6-8 months before he finally took the big step.
Well, that's enough on that subject.
Eric, can you fast forward to, this is fun to watch these men smoke and enjoy each other's company, which was like mostly what this is very similar to Magic the Gathering or Cloak Boy, like two guys sitting in a forest talking about life, but two narcissists sitting in the forest talking about life. But back then they gave them a whole TV show for it. But can you skip ahead to 4 minutes and 30 seconds, I think, where this guy starts talking about weed and booze, which is 4 minutes and 30, I think.
Yep, here we go.
All right, let's check this out.
By this time, I'm out of money. Folks, I'm right out of money. But I met a lady who was going to produce a picture. And she said, could I come up and have coffee at 8:30 in the morning? I said, of course. I had a little room in a hotel. She came up at 8:30, and we got along well. She had to leave in about 20 minutes, and I told her this little story. She said, why don't we buy you a ticket down to Belgrade? I said, well, quiet, you know, nobody does that, you know, we just met. And so she flew off to Berlin. In about half an hour, the phone calls. Is her secretary? She says, Mr. Hayden, there's a prepaid ticket waiting for you at Orly Airport to Belgrade. And I said to a friend of mine, call a taxi. Then I got down to Belgrade, and of course, Belgrade by this time is full. So I spent the first night in the railway.
4 minutes and 30 seconds?
Yeah, that was 4 minutes and 30.
Fuck. Well, anybody listening to this is not the documentary. The documentary is called, Greg, it's called,
at least to be
what
warm,
is it?
like in this particular. It was colder even in this studio.
It's called The Pharaohs of Chaos.
Spelled, how's Pharaoh spelled?
Pharos.
Pharaohs of Chaos. Okay, so this is back when, can you kill your mic?
Sorry.
This is back when, this is back when me saying kill your mic is the most violent thing I've ever said in my life. I feel like this has turned me into just a complete monster, this audio problem. Can you kill your mic? Greg's like 2 feet away from me.
Cold brew guy, you're like.
So fuck it, yeah. So this fucking guy, anyway, he's on television, you know, laughing at jokes about airline travel or whatever. These people, anyway, he's got this headband on. That's another power move. You wear a headband like that, and you look like God. You know, it's like he knows what he's doing. Anyway, so I can't. I thought it was 4 minutes and 30 seconds when he talks about the weed. Maybe go a little further. Go to like 5:30 or something. And look at that beard, you know.
Right where I wanted to be.
Yeah,
It was a very moving thing.
You hate acting in movies anyway, don't you?
No, I don't hate it
Here we go.
anymore.
You used to hate it a lot.
I used to. I not so much hated as I was scared of it. Because I had the feeling, I think I said this to you, we said it to each other. I said I simply had the feeling I ain't really professional. It was that simple. I've got no theatrical background, you know what I mean? And you have the feeling even if you get away with all of the help of everybody around you. But since I think I mentioned to you once when we were last met, which was about, I think, 77?
3 years
Something
back.
like that, okay. I discovered a thing called grass, you know, about 12 years ago. Well, that changed everything for me in terms of acting. I suddenly felt like an actor feels. I relaxed, you know. I mean, just take one little toke and let her go. And so now I've had a good time since then, and I just work a little bit at a time.
Do you still take a little toke every now and then to kind of relax? How does that affect the writing?
I can't write on it.
No,
you can't write on it. But I thought for a while I could break booze with it. I've got a thing with booze. I'm a boozer. I'm a boozer.
I like the booze.
And I say it with I mean, I'm past the point of talking about it lightly. You know, it's if you're an alcoholic, you're an alcoholic, and I ain't a recovered alcoholic. Though I spent a couple of months in a place for alcoholism in '78, and I won't mention the name because I don't think they would like me to. It's not far from here. And you know the names of some people who've been there. That's perhaps irrelevant, but it's based on the AA thing, which is the only thing that seems to work. And I happen to be somebody I can't go the AA route. You know, I just can't.
Route.
No, I don't. I can't. But maybe because I don't really want to stop. You know.
Well, you went to this thing for how long?
2 months.
Yeah.
2 months.
What'd they do for you there? Anything?
Well, many things, of course. I came out feeling like a young ocelot with his first erection, you know? I was just about fine. And I went over to my ship and I decided...
All right. I think actually, Greg, you should just turn on your mic and we should just let it be that way. Because I can't deal with this with being alone with you sitting next to me. Or else turn on your mic and talk about this because or wait, I guess just wait. Fuck, I don't fucking know. But I just think like this guy is an example of.
Wait a second. I have a question. What's an ocelot? You wouldn't know that.
I don't know.
Oh, let me look it up.
I mean, I think in my head I'm picturing a ferret. But I just think that. Oh, I knew it was an animal. Go ahead. Turn on your mic. This show's gonna be called the Turn On Your Mic Show.
Let's see.
Cold Brew got your mic.
The ocelot is a medium-sized spotted wildcat that reaches 40 to 50 centimeters at the shoulders and weighs between 8 and 15 kilograms. It's a wildcat.
How many milligrams?
It reaches between 8 and 15.5 kilograms.
Oh, okay. Oh, it was tiny.
Okay. 18 to 44 pounds.
Okay, so Sterling Hayden, man, he is very much like a fucking Steve Bannon type. These guys look in the mirror and they think that they look like God, and then they start acting like it. And the thing is that they're one of like, you know, this guy's like one of like, I don't know, 8 billion people on the planet. And I don't even know 8 billion. I just made that up. I have no fucking idea, but I know it's a lot of people. And, you know, it's fun to hear about. I am very entertained by narcissistic showbiz types. But the fact is like that the whole world has sort of become these types because now everybody's got their own fucking Instagram. So like everybody thinks their perspective is so important. But I mean, like, it's fun to watch these kind of people because they're so funny because they're so up their own ass. And it's so much connected to, especially for these very big, like physically large white guys. They really do think that they probably resemble like the creator. And they behave accordingly. You know, I mean, I can just picture hanging out with this man and it would have to be entertaining because he's so crazy. Like, I mean, like, just talking about how he can act, like acting. He can act on grass, but he can't write at all. Like, how does that? Like, he can do something. He's like, I couldn't act until I tried grass, and then I could act great. Well, do you write on grass? No, I can't write on grass. Oh my God, you're completely useless on that drug. So like, I don't understand the, like the two things. He can do this one meaningful thing on grass, but then this other meaningful thing is not doable at all. Like, I can't write, but I can also, I don't know. And also the idea that like, it's also a white man idea. If anyone's lived in this world recently, is white people are constantly fucking recommending, it's not just white people, people with money are constantly recommending psychedelics as a way to just fix anything. Like white people are always looking for and rich people are always looking for some easy way out where they can become enlightened or get good at something through a drug. And so the idea that he's like, I felt like a fraud as an actor until I smoked weed is very similar to if you live in Los Angeles, like I've been living for 7 years, and you say you have any problem, and some fucking rich kid will tell you should do mushrooms and that'll fix it. So it's very entertaining to watch these people be narcissistic. But at the same time, it is part of the problem that we have a whole civilization based on people who think their personal experience is really a knockout, for everybody else. Like, let me tell you about my personal experience with recovery. It made me feel like an ocelot with an erection. You know what I mean? That's part of the problem, like not part of the solution. Like, I don't really care. Like, okay, recovering from alcohol made you feel horny. Why are you on TV talking about that? But anyway, it's
what about his wardrobe being Johnny Depp like? I mean, Johnny Depp probably saw an image of this guy and was like, aha. I see him as like a combination of Johnny Depp and Keith Richards. I mean, what's he wearing around his neck? What is that thing?
That's some sort of narcissistic accessory. I mean, people narcissists love fucking wearing some giant fucking piece of quartz around their neck or something that makes them look like, he probably, you wear some huge piece of ore around your neck and he's like, Howard Hughes gave this to me after the first test flight of his Gray Falcon. Howard Hughes always kept some ore around. He thought it had magical properties. He gave it to me after we drank 14 bottles of brandy and tried to kill an eagle. There's just like all these fucking mixed up Daniel Boone wilderness stories. Like there's no more wilderness because there's too many people, and you have to stop acting like, you have to stop acting like freedom is freedom to just like feel yourself, freedom to like, dangle your balls in a fir tree or whatever these people think freedom is, or to like wrestle an alligator. Like that's Theodore Roosevelt mythology stuff. But Theodore Roosevelt was able to do that stuff because of colonialism and because there just were less people in the world. So you could find some place to wrestle an alligator and be like, this is life. If no one has experienced freedom until they've wrestled an alligator surrounded by 4 acres of vacant land, that's not a model that works anymore because you got to have housing for people. And if there's housing, then there's less room for narcissists to put on giant pieces of ore and wrestle alligators and fight eagles and have these stories they love to have, which are basically godlike stories about them, tearing apart trees with their bare hands and stuff. While they're stoned. And then other narcissists like Tom Snyder, who's hosting this show, laugh at their stories. Were you also drunk? And they're like, yes. And then he's like, I love that. I love being drunk and powerful.
Well, this guy was a real sailor. He started out as a sailor.
That's one problem.
Sorry, a fisherman.
That's a problem right there. No one should be allowed to be a fisherman either.
Well, that's what's interesting about him going to Hollywood and the power of television and, the effect the camera's having on Tom Snyder and him, and how it took this regular old fisherman and turned him into the Keith Richards / Johnny.
Fuck. Keith Richards stole Sterling Hayden's look. Put on your mic.
No, I mean, I said he was a combo of Keith Richards and Johnny Depp. I mean, Johnny Depp down, party in front, and Keith Richards on top.
Yeah, and a fucking Bible, like probably, I bet you anything you can find a picture of Jesus wearing a headband somewhere in the Bible, or some painting by some fucking Raphael or something where he put a headband on Jesus, and Sterling Hayden said, "Hey, that looks like me," and then put a headband on himself, and then next thing you know, everybody's got a fucking headband on because of iconography. So this guy is a human. He's just an interesting guy. I mean, I guess on the bright side, this guy's a more of a benevolent. He's a lefty guy. So he has this interesting story because he was a Hollywood type. He got cast in these movies where he basically got to play Daniel Boone type characters because he looked that way. And that's another thing, is cinema is the most powerful propaganda, and it only got developed 100 years ago. So we've all been fed this, like, probably the most undeniable propaganda ever. Like, you think a stained glass window or that big white guy touching the other guy's finger in the Michelangelo painting is bad. They had nothing on a movie. So all these John Wayne types and stuff have infected all of American males. And that's what makes them think they want to storm the Capitol, because they don't think regular life is affording them enough opportunities to wrestle alligators and stuff like that. So they're like, we need to reorganize society so we can be more like those guys in the movies. It's an interesting thing, and accessories are a big part of it. Yeah, like headbands and things like. I mean, someone tweeted today, "Say what you will about the January 6th rioters, they love merch." They love accessories. They love stuff like that. I don't know why narcissists like things like foam fingers and stuff. I guess simply just because it makes their hand bigger. Okay, so we're going to look at now. That was Sterling Hayden. I recommend you watch his documentary Pharaohs of Chaos, because man, it's entertaining to watch these people and also I do appreciate a person who's a thinker, and he's obviously a thinker. That is, I'm not to say every single person who thinks about stuff or philosophizes is a narcissist. I don't think that's the case. I think it's fine to consider life. I think it's another thing to feel like you need a certain amount of acreage to come to any worthwhile conclusions. I've found that you can be a philosopher. I've turned into sort of a philosopher during this COVID thing, because I've been sort of broadcasting my poems and things like that. And you can be a philosopher with nothing. I've had a tiny little house. I don't need you don't need a lot of room to be smart or to be thoughtful. Okay, so now
I gotta say one thing. I feel like Sterling Hayden. I feel sympathy for him, because I feel like he'd be much happier if he had just continued fishing and hadn't been sucked into Hollywood and essentially ruined by Hollywood and made to have 3 wives and 6 kids and alcohol and a communism versus non-communism. And so in the sense, he's a victim of the camera and of the art, as you're talking about. It's a very powerful art form. So
yes. We're surrounded by people who believe their own image, look at a picture of themselves or look at them on film, or, celebrities that live their life according to what they've been portrayed on screen as, like Johnny Depp. He's been put in too many Tim Burton movies, and now he thinks he is like magical. And he's not magical. He's an alcoholic, which is what magical people like to do, because alcoholism makes you feel like you live in some other realm, but it's just a realm where you're just a jerk who falls asleep on the floor all the time. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, fisherman. Okay, so Greg just said Sterling Hayden was a fisherman. I think people shouldn't be allowed to be fishermen either, because there's a reason why these narcissistic types like to fish, because they get to have these epic battles and pretend they're Ernest Hemingway and stuff. So they're like pulling on some fish, and you get what you want. So you get what you want by perseverance. Like, you sit in some chair and strap yourself in and pull on some fucking fish, and then you apply that to everything else in your life. So you think relationships are all about just pulling really hard, and you think getting things is, fishing is not a healthy, it only works for fishing. I just want to remind anybody who's on this, who's like a fisherman, that just because pulling really hard and persistence works in fishing, it doesn't mean you should apply that to all parts of your life, like managing a coffee shop, for example. You shouldn't pull on your employees for hours strapped into a chair. even though that works if you're managing a fish.
That's an interesting take.
So, next time you go fly fishing, remember, you're a monster. You're part of the problem.
Oh no, fly fishing for sure. But
Fly fishing is
Sterling Hayden was a commercial fisherman at 15. I mean, he wasn't doing it like Hemingway.
But still, it doesn't matter. If you tell someone you're a fisherman when you're 15, it's part of the problem. They're like, you're like a Daniel Boone. 15. That's what I'm talking about. These 15-year-olds are too lazy. I like that you got off your ass. I'll tell you the story I've told before. This guy, I work at a wine bar in Malibu, right? And this guy who owns the winery, the guy who owns the 40 acres in Malibu where we grow the fucking grapes, some fucking like Korean war veteran looking motherfucker, some fucking big ass man, some 6'4" ex-Marine, same shit. You know what I mean? Like fucking, I fought for the freedom and all that. And so I've earned the right to tell everybody what to do. So he came in and he said, dead seriously, he said, people, he said, I like that your boss started this winery. That's what people need to do. Because I was like, he started the winery in 1986. And he's like, that's what I'm talking about. These people today, he's talking about poor people. He's like, these people need to start wineries. He's like, this man got up in the morning and planted some vines, and that's what I'm talking about. And that's why America's all fucked up now. Because back in 1986, people were getting off their asses and starting wineries. I was like, the man was a billionaire already when he started the fucking winery. Do you know how much 40 acres in Malibu costs? Do you know how much it costs to have enough land to plant grapes? You think poor people have access to fertile fields they're ignoring? That's his premise. Like, I'm tired of poor people sitting around collecting unemployment when they could be planting grapes in the fields they own. Like, yeah, that's not. I was just like so amazed. He's like, basically, he was like, people need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and start making Merlot. And I didn't even know what to say because it was so outrageous. So I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm not going to start a fight with the guy. The idea. I mean, the guy who owns our winery is so rich. His dad was rich before him. That's why he was able to plant a goddamn winery. God. Anyway, okay, so we're going to do one fun thing at the end here. And I hope you guys had fun. It's been really fun being back on the show. And I'm sorry about, I'm very sorry for yelling at Greg about his microphone. I feel awful. I feel like one of these men who, I feel like I'm behaving as if Greg's a fish and I'm strapped in a chair. Greg?
I feel like it's appropriate. It conveys the effort you put into the show.
And Greg has Stockholm syndrome. Okay, so listen to this. It's time for some fun. This is a clip of a Trent Reznor. This is a clip of Trent Reznor and his band, which is literally, and I'm using this word correctly, literally called, what is it called? Slap Bamboo, I believe, which is cold brew by itself. Like the idea of a bunch of guys sitting around deciding their band should be called Slap Bamboo. And it's like a synth pop band, and Trent Reznor played keys in it. And the lead singer is possibly the most annoying looking person I've ever seen in my life. So let's roll a little bit of Trent Reznor's first band here.
I've lost my patience and I'm not going to wait anymore. I'm just wasting my time getting older. I've tried to take what you say as being the truth. You got love on your side, but it's over too. Yes, it's over too. The thing that gets to me every time is that look of truth that's in your eyes. Don't tell those little white lies. No, don't tell those little white
Okay, we can pause it now. That's probably enough. Probably more than we needed to hear of that fucking song. Greg?
Clearly, Trent Reznor's potential is not being realized.
Trent Reznor. Okay, so Trent Reznor, I'm starting to think that all of his songs were inspired, all of his Nine Inch Nails material was inspired by his hatred for this man, this singer. And I think next show we should probably examine this singer and find out what he did after this. But that haircut alone that singer has would have inspired me to write March of the Pigs. Greg?
Yeah, for people who can't see it, it's a white studio and the lead singer's in a gold lame suit and Trent Reznor's back on the keyboards far away from the group wearing like a black trench coat, looking kind of angry, kind of like, I'll go along with this crap.
I think that like Trent Reznor, he is kind of wearing a black trench coat. Yeah, he looks kind of like he has like the rest of the band looks like typical 1980s like fuckboys. Like 80s fuckboys wore giant blazers with the sleeves rolled up. They look like fake Duran Duran, you know, like he's wearing like a gold lame tuxedo jacket, but he's got this haircut, this fucking haircut that's like he has the wrong kind of hair for new wave because it's curly, like it's real curly. So he's got half his head like shaved, and then the other half is real curly, but it looks kind of like he has a piece of seaweed on his head. Like it's truly a awful looking new wave haircut. He just has the wrong quality hair for it. There's Slam Boob. Oh, pause it right there. That's our Cold Brew Got Me Like picture for this week. Hold on a second. Let me get my coffee.
Score.
Oh yeah, here we go. Hold on.
It's perfect.
Hold on, I get the picture. I can't. Oh, because I got my fake background. I got this fucking background, so I can't have the Cold Brew fucking bottle. Oh god.
What kind of more information do you need?
Yeah, it's true. If that's not enough information for you, I mean, if you don't know, yeah, you're gonna know whether you want to go to that right away.
Spelled wrong too. Information.
All right, let's leave both our mics on for this part. Slam, because I mean, I just want to talk about. Okay, Slam. So Greg says, truly, why would you need more information? I mean, you're gonna know right away from seeing this whether you want to go. I mean, you're either the kind of person who wants to go see something called Slam Bamboo at a fantasy nightclub spelled Phantasy. So for people listening at home, this is an ad for this band, Slam Bamboo, that Trent Reznor was in, possibly in it just to build up enough hate to launch Nine Inch Nails. He may have joined Slam Bamboo just to like as a masochistic act because he figured there's no way I could ever be madder than being in a band with these people. And that way it will make my songs even that much more real. So he's probably thinking how he wants to fuck that entire band like an animal is what I picture in his head. He's like, I want to fuck all these guys like an animal just to teach them a lesson. And he's also thinking, you know, I mean, he's just thinking horrible things about, probably that the man that's singing for Slam Bamboo caused him to try heroin. That's what I think. But yeah, this ad that they have on the screen here, you know, Slam Bamboo, fantasy nightclub spelled Phantasy, Saturday at 11:30 p.m. For more information, 228-6300. I guess people probably called up and were just like, "What's Slam Bamboo? Is that a drink? Is that a drink? Or is it like Zumba?" This is before Zumba was invented, so they probably thought it was an exercise thing. I bet a bunch of people showed up in exercise clothing.
This probably was like Pennsylvania. I think he's from Pittsburgh, so this probably was a Pennsylvania nightclub.
Yeah. So Slam Bamboo, yeah, Slam Bamboo. Okay, I mean, I've said it enough times.
And I think that
heard of me.
One thing to add, if people do see the video, the lead singer, I think the haircut is clearly what Chris said, but also the eyeglasses, the frames are really what doesn't work. And it reminds me of a friend from college named Brian Sack. I couldn't stand him.
Shout out to Brian Sack. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've done it. We've fucking braved the wires. We've braved the Omicron. We've sat in a kitchen. We've done it all. I've survived shingles. We're all still here, and I'm very glad that you all showed up. Go support the Patreon if you feel like it. Subscribe or whatever the fuck else you're supposed to do on these devices. And we'll see you next week. Cold Brew got me like.
Cold Brew got me like.